Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something truly electrifying. Electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. EVTOLs. Forget those persistent dreams of flying cars that never quite materialize. That feels different, like a real potential shift in aviation and how we navigate our cities.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating field, and we're going to sort of break it down today. Where did this idea of vertical flight really come from, practically speaking?
Right.
How do these modern machines actually get off the ground and, fly? What are all the potential uses? It's not just people movers, is it?
No, definitely not. And who are the key companies pushing this forward? And crucially, I think, what are the real obstacles? What's stopping them from being everywhere already?
Exactly, those roadblocks.
Yeah. So you're likely here because you want to get a solid grasp of this cutting-edge tech without needing an aerospace degree. Our goal is just to give you a clear, engaging exploration of the EVTOL world. So let's kick things on by looking back a bit. Where did vertical flight even start?
Well, it might surprise you. The core concept goes way back. You could even point to sketches by Leonardo da Vinci.
Wow, really? Da Vinci?
Yeah, conceptually at least. But jumping forward to more modern times, maybe the mid-20th century, we saw experimental stuff like the Hawker Siddeley Harrier jump jet.
Oh yeah, the Harrier. Impressive machine.
Totally. And there were various tilt rotor designs, other jet lift concepts. Groundbreaking for their time, sure, showed vertical flight was possible.
But they had some major downsides, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the noise. Just incredibly loud.
And fuel guzzlers, too, I imagine.
Exactly. Fuel inefficiency, the sheer complexity. It really limited where they could be used.
Yeah.
More niche military roles or, tech demos.
Right. Not exactly your daily commute option.
No.
So what changed? Why are we suddenly talking seriously about eVTOLs in the 2010s? What was the big leap?
It really comes down to advancements in electric propulsion. That was the game changer.
Ah, the electric side. Batteries, motors.
Precisely. We saw battery energy density get much better, storing more power for their weight. Combine that with more powerful, more efficient electric motors, and importantly, sophisticated electronic controllers to manage it all.
Gotcha. So these things together kind of solve the old problems. Noise, emissions.
Well, they offered a path to solve them. The promise of quieter flight, zero direct emissions, better energy efficiency. It lined up perfectly with this growing interest in urban air mobility, UAM.
UAM, right. And the bigger picture, advanced air mobility, AAM.
Exactly. And that really caught people's attention. Remember that NASA Puffin concept back in 2009?
Vaguely, yeah. The
Yeah.
single-person thing. Looked futuristic.
It did. And the video went kind of viral. It just seemed to spark something, made the idea feel more tangible.
Okay.
Then a few years later, 2014, the term EVTOL gets officially adopted by the Vertical Flight Society and AIAA. It sort of crystallized the field.
Gave it a proper name.
Yeah, signaled it was becoming a distinct area of innovation. And around then, you started seeing companies like Joby Aviation and Volocopter really getting serious.
The early players.
Right. Starting earnest development, building early prototypes. They were really laying the groundwork. And we shouldn't forget Mark Moore's white paper from NASA. That was huge.
What was that about?
It laid out a really compelling technical and economic case for electric vertical flight. It got a lot of researchers and entrepreneurs excited, really galvanized the community.
Okay, so the tech is maturing, the vision is there.
Yeah.
Then the big players started getting involved, right?
Yeah.
Not just startups anymore.
Exactly. That's when the momentum really picked up. You saw established aerospace giants, Airbus, Boeing, Embraer, even Honda, Hyundai, Toyota starting to invest, develop their own program.
Alongside the startups like Archer, EHang.
Yep. That influx, it signaled that this wasn't just some niche experiment anymore. The big guys saw real potential for disruption, for growth.
Brought credibility and probably a lot more money.
Absolutely. And then Uber's Elevate white paper in 2016, that really broadened the whole conversation. It wasn't just about the aircraft. It painted this picture of an integrated system, an urban air mobility ecosystem, on-demand air taxis in cities.
The whole network idea. Vertiports, booking system.
Exactly. That captured the imagination of the public and, frankly, a much wider range of industries beyond just aerospace.
And since then, things have just accelerated like crazy, haven't they?
Dramatically. We've seen tons of flight testing, more sophisticated prototypes rolling out.
Even the military's getting involved with things like Agility Prime.
Right, exploring the applications and, all those EVTOL companies going public via SPACs. That shows growing investor confidence, or at least speculative interest in the near-term potential.
So the path seems clear. Concepts,
Right.
electric breakthroughs, big investment, ecosystem focus,
Yeah.
leading to where we are now, pushing for commercial reality.
That sums it up pretty well. A rapid evolution from ideas to tangible progress.
Okay, that's a great historical overview. Let's get into the nuts and bolts now. How do these things actually fly? They look so different from each other sometimes.
Yeah, the diversity is striking, but the core principle, as we said, is electric propulsion.
Quieter, no direct emissions, more efficient. Those are the big advantages.
Those are the key drivers. Now, how they use that electric power for vertical lift and forward flight, that varies a lot. It really reflects the ongoing innovation, people trying different approaches.
Not a one-size-fits-all situation then.
Definitely not. Let's break down some main categories. First, you've got multicopters.
Like bigger drones, basically.
Pretty much. Think larger, more powerful, maybe 4, 6, 8 rotors or more. All the lift comes from those rotors spinning. They tend to be simpler mechanically, quite stable.
Okay. Any examples?
Volocopter's 2X is a good one. Or for personal use, something like the Jetson one.
Right. So straight up and down lift. What about the ones that look more like planes, that transition?
Okay, now you're talking about vectored thrust. Directing the thrust somehow for both lift and forward flight.
How do they do that?
Several ways. One is tilt wings. The whole wing, propellers and all, pivots. Dufour Aerospace uses this. Can be aerodynamically efficient in forward flight.
That sounds complex.
Can be, yeah. Control systems get tricky. A more common approach maybe is tilt rotors.
Where just the rotors tilt.
Exactly. The wing stays fixed, just the rotors pivot. That's what you see on the Archermaker, Lilium Jet, Joby S4, Vertical Aerospace's VAX4, Zuri 2.0. Lots of companies use this.
Seems popular. Why?
Might simplify some control aspects compared to a full tilt wing, but it still has challenges, especially managing the airflow and rotor dynamics during that transition phase.
Okay, tilt rotors. Any other ways to vector thrust?
Some designs use flaps to redirect the airflow from fixed propellers downwards for lift, then adjust them for cruise. Craft Aero, Otis Aviation are exploring that.
Interesting.
Then you have lift and cruise designs. These basically have two separate sets of propulsion systems.
One for up, down, one for forward.
Yep. Dedicated rotors or fans for vertical takeoff and landing, and then separate propellers or maybe even small jets optimized just for efficient horizontal flight. Beta Zalias uses this. Some Airbus concepts, Eve, eMagic.
Makes sense. Optimize each system for its job. Are there hybrids? Mixing these ideas?
For sure. We see hybrid designs using both fixed and tilting motors. Archermaker, Vertical Aerospace, VA1X, Whiskora kind of fit here. Trying to get the best of both worlds, maybe.
Okay. And I saw something about folding wings.
Ah, yeah, Terradynamics. That's more about ground logistics, though, making them easier to store and transport on the ground, not really about how they fly.
Smart idea for practicality.
Yeah.
Now, for the ones that do have wings, these lift and cruise or vectored thrust types, do the wing shapes matter much?
Oh, absolutely. If you want efficient forward flight, wing design is crucial. Multicopters might not need big wings, but the others do.
What kinds of wings are we seeing?
You see tandem wings, 2 separate wings, front and back, sometimes connected at the tips.
Like a box shape?
Exactly. Box wings or closed wings can improve efficiency, reduce drag. Then there are ducted wing designs where the lift fans are kind of built into the wing structure itself.
Embedded in the wing?
Yeah, exposed for vertical lift, then maybe covered by aerodynamic surfaces for cruise, more integrated.
Wow. So much engineering creativity. Okay, power source. It's all batteries right now, mostly.
The vast majority, yes. Batteries are the primary power source today.
But they have limits. Right. That's always the issue with electric vehicles.
It is. The big one is specific energy, how much energy per kilogram. That directly limits range and how much payload, like passengers or cargo, they can carry.
Right. More batteries means more weight, which needs more power. Vicious cycle.
Exactly. And then you have issues like recharge speed, managing heat so they don't overheat, battery lifespan. It's a constant trade-off. You want range, you want payload, but you have to keep the battery weight down.
What kind of numbers are we talking about for specific energy?
Well, current top-tier lithium-ion might be around 250, maybe 300 watt-hours per kilogram. For EVTOLs to really do longer trips with more people, you'd ideally want that number quite a bit higher.
So batteries are key, but are there alternatives being looked at?
Definitely. There's a lot of interest in hydrogen fuel cells.
Ah, hydrogen. Longer range potential?
Potentially much higher energy density, yes. The challenge, especially with early fuel cells, was getting enough power output for that demanding vertical takeoff phase.
Need a big burst of power, right?
Exactly. But newer fuel cell designs are supposedly making progress there. Another avenue is hybrid systems.
Combining batteries and fuel cells.
Yeah. Use batteries for the high-power takeoff and landing, then switch to more efficient fuel cells for the cruise portion of the flight. Best of both worlds, maybe.
That sounds like a smart approach. Okay, last piece on how they fly. Control and safety. These seem complex.
Hugely important. They rely heavily on advanced avionics and sophisticated autonomous flight systems.
Automation is key.
Very key. These systems manage everything: flight controls, navigation, avoiding obstacles, communication. The goal for many is a high degree of automation, maybe single pilot operations, or eventually
Fully autonomous. No pilot.
that's the long-term vision for some. Big implications for safety, operational costs, scalability, but also big hurdles to get there.
Right. So the sheer variety of designs, power sources,
Yeah.
it really shows this field is still figuring things out. No single winner yet.
Exactly. It's a broad exploration phase. Everyone's trying to optimize for performance, efficiency, safety within the limits of current tech, especially batteries. Finding that sweet spot is the challenge.
Okay, great explanation.
Yeah.
So we know how they might fly. Now, what could they actually do? What are the applications? Seems like more than just flying taxis.
Oh, the versatility is a huge part of the appeal. But let's start with the most talked about one: urban air mobility, UAM, air taxis.
Right, zipping over traffic jams.
That's the vision. On-demand aerial transport within and around cities. Think downtown to the airport fast.
Skipping all the gridlock.
Exactly. Or maybe short hops between nearby détours. Just bypassing congestion.
Well, sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But you'd need places to land, right? Can't just pop down anywhere.
Absolutely critical. You need a whole network of vertiports. And these aren't just fancy helipads.
Okay.
Multiple takeoff landing pads for volume, passenger terminals, high power charging, or maybe refueling stations, maintenance facilities.
Yeah.
It's a whole infrastructure ecosystem.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a massive undertaking. Huge
Yeah.
investment. Okay, besides people, what about moving stuff?
Cargo.
Cargo delivery is another really promising area. Think faster, more flexible, maybe more sustainable goods transport.
Especially in cities or hard-to-reach places.
Exactly. Last mile e-commerce deliveries.
Yeah.
Urgent medical supplies, think organs, blood.
Yeah, speed is critical there.
Reaching communities cut off by, say, a natural disaster, ship-to-shore logistics, retail parts delivery, disaster relief. Lots of potential.
Okay, so people and packages. That medical supply point is interesting. Does that extend to emergency medical services, EMS? Big potential for EMS. Imagine getting paramedics and specialized equipment to an emergency scene way faster than an ambulance stuck in traffic.
Or even faster than a traditional helicopter sometimes.
Potentially, especially in dense urban areas, they might be able to land closer to the actual incident site too, in more confined spaces.
So faster response times. Initially, maybe personnel and equipment.
That's likely the start. But longer term, maybe larger EVTOLs could transport patients as well. Plus, the potential for 247 operation, maybe better handling of some weather conditions. It offers advantages.
That's a really compelling use case. What else? Any other areas?
Yeah, there are others. Agriculture using them for precise crop monitoring, targeted spraying, reduces waste, better for the environment.
Precision agriculture from the air.
Right. Law enforcement surveillance, traffic monitoring, rapid response. Search and rescue, obviously, leveraging that vertical capability.
Makes sense.
And the military, as we mentioned, is looking at them for logistics, personnel recovery, maybe even light support roles. It's a really broad spectrum.
It really is remarkable. Touches so many different sectors. No wonder there's so much excitement and investment.
That versatility is definitely a key driver.
Okay, so who are the main companies actually building these things, making it happen? Sounds like a mix of the big aerospace names and agile startups.
That's a good way to put it. Let's run through some of the key players. You've got Joby Aviation in the U.S.
Hear their name a lot. Passenger focus.
Yeah, five-seater aiming for commercial service in the U.S., maybe as early as 2025. They, quote, pretty impressive range and speed, got backing from Toyota, Uber, pushing hard on certification internationally, too.
Okay, Joby's a big one. Who else in the U.S. passenger space?
Archer Aviation is another major player. Their Midnight aircraft is a 4-passenger design.
What's their focus?
More on shorter urban routes, maybe 20 miles or so, with rapid recharging. They're targeting cities like New York, L.A., also for 2025. Got a big order from United Airlines, partnership with Stellantis for manufacturing.
So Joby and Archer are really gunning for that U.S. urban market soon. What about Europe?
Over in Germany, you have Volocopter. They've been around a while, real pioneers.
Their design looks quite different, more rotors.
Yeah, the Velocity is a two-seater multi-copter design focused on inner-city trips. They've done lots of test flights, Dubai, Singapore, also aiming for 2025 launches in various cities. And they have a cargo version, the Volodrone. Importantly, they got design approval from EASA.
EASA, the European Safety Agency, that's a big step. Another German name I hear is Lilium.
Yes, Lilium. They're taking a slightly different tack, focusing more on regional travel, connecting cities, not just within them.
Bigger aircraft.
Yeah, their Lilium jet is planned as a seven-seater longer range. They're planning a vertiport network in Europe and the US. Unique propulsion, too. Those ducted fans in the wings. They started production recently, also got EAO design approval.
Interesting, different market segment. What about Asia? Any major players there?
Definitely look at EHang in China. They're really focused on autonomous aerial vehicles, AAV.
Autonomous from the start.
That's their focus. The EHang 216 is a two-passenger autonomous craft used for urban trips, tourism, cargo. They've done test flights all over. And a huge milestone. Their EH216S got certified in China, the first certified passenger air taxi globally.
Wow, fully certified autonomous passenger flight in China. That's significant. Back to Europe, the UK. Vertical aerospace.
That's right, vertical aerospace. Their VX4 is a four-passenger EVTOL aimed at inner-city travel. Got partnerships with big airlines like American, Virgin Atlantic, targeting a 2025 launch in the UK and Europe, making good progress on flight testing.
Okay, so many targeting 2025 or 2026. It's going to be a busy couple of years. Who else is worth watching closely?
Beta Technologies, also US-based.
Right.
Interesting because their ALI A250 is designed for both passengers, 5 of them, or quite a bit of cargo. Good range, too. They're working with UPS on logistics, looking at medical supplies, even building their own charging network.
Focusing on cargo and infrastructure, too. Smart.
Then there's Wisk Aero. That was the Boeing Kitty Hawk joint venture, now fully owned by Boeing.
What's their angle?
Fully autonomous from the get-go. A two-passenger urban EVTOL. They've been testing in New Zealand and the US, aiming for mid-2020s launch. Boeing doubling down on autonomy there.
Boeing going all in on autonomous. Makes sense.
And Embraer, the Brazilian giant.
Yep, their spin-off Eve Air Mobility. Developing a 4 to 6 passenger EVTOL, big focus on low noise, cost efficiency. United Airlines has shown strong interest, potential for hundreds of aircraft starting around 2026.
So much activity. Any others we should briefly mention?
Oh yeah, the field is broad. Keep an eye on Textron Aviation, part of the company that owns Cessna and Bell with their Nexus. Autoflight from China, doing well with their cargo and passenger designs like Prosperity Eye. And SkyDrive in Japan working on smaller, maybe more personal eVTOLs. It's constantly changing.
It really paints a picture of a vibrant, competitive landscape. Lots of different approaches, technologies, target markets. But that mid-2020s timeframe keeps popping up.
It does. It feels like a critical inflection point for the industry, moving from R&D to actually trying to operate commercially. Okay, so the potential is huge. The players are lining up, but it can't be all smooth sailing. There must be some major challenges, right? What are the big roadblocks?
You're absolutely right. It's not easy. The hurdles are significant, and they span multiple areas: regulations, infrastructure, public perception, the tech itself, and, of course, the economics.
Let's start with regulations. Getting permission to fly these new kinds of aircraft, especially over cities. That sounds complicated.
It is hugely complicated. Right now, there aren't really specific rule books tailor-made for eVTOLs. Existing aircraft regulations don't quite fit.
So the authorities are playing catch-up. FAA in the U.S., EASA in Europe.
They're working hard on it, developing new standards, but it's complex, takes time. They have to figure out airworthiness standards for totally new designs, how to certify pilots, especially if they're semi or fully autonomous.
Right. How do you certify a system, not just a person?
Exactly. And how do you safely integrate potentially thousands of these things into already crowded airspace? They're developing concepts like unmanned traffic management, UTM, but it's a big task.
And changes in approach, like the FAA, changing how they certify some winged eVTOLs, that causes delays, I bet.
It can, yeah. Creates uncertainty for manufacturers. Key issues are defining safety standards, robust testing procedures, pilot certification pathways, airspace integration, and the whole autonomous flight certification piece. That last one is a massive technical and regulatory challenge.
So regulatory uncertainty is a big cloud hanging over timelines and maybe even designs.
It definitely impacts things.
Yeah.
Companies might have to modify designs as the rules evolve.
Okay, regulation is one major hurdle. What about the physical infrastructure? We mentioned vertiports earlier.
Another monumental challenge. We essentially need to build a whole new ground support system. These vertiports, they need multiple landing pads, passenger handling areas, high power charging.
Charging must be a big deal. These things need a lot of juice quickly.
Huge deal. Requires very high power charging stations, potentially significant upgrades to local electricity grids to handle the demand, and maintenance facilities too.
And finding space for all this in cities, where real estate is already tight and expensive.
That's a massive problem. Siting these vertiports, dealing with zoning laws, land use restrictions, it's tough.
Okay.
Then you need to integrate these operations smoothly with existing transport roads, trains, and develop those sophisticated air traffic management systems we talked about. It all needs huge financial investment and coordination between cities, companies, utilities,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, it sounds like building the ground network is almost as big a challenge as building the aircraft. What about people? Public perception. Are people excited or scared?
Public acceptance is absolutely crucial. It hinges on trust. People need to feel safe getting into these novel aircraft.
Safety is number one. What else? Noise.
Noise is a big one. Even if they're quieter than helicopters, operating frequently in urban areas could still cause annoyance. There's the whole NMBY, not in my backyard factor. Research even shows that just seeing them fly overhead can make people perceive more noise. So the industry needs an impeccable safety record from day one.
No room for error, especially early on.
None. And they need to really prioritize noise reduction in the aircraft design, how they fly, operational routes, plus proactive community engagement. Talking to people, being transparent about safety, noise, that's essential.
So building trust is key. Early success stories will help. Early accidents could be disastrous for adoption.
Absolutely. Perception will be shaped heavily by those initial experiences.
Okay, regulations, infrastructure, public perception. What about the technology itself? Are there still fundamental technical limits?
Oh, yes. There are definitely ongoing technical limitations. Battery technology is still probably the biggest bottleneck.
We keep coming back to batteries.
Yeah.
Specific energy, right? Range, payload.
Exactly. Still not quite where it needs to be for widespread long-range operations, plus recharge speed, managing heat, battery lifespan. These are all areas needing continuous improvement. It's that constant balancing act with weight.
What else technically?
Electric propulsion systems themselves. Getting enough power for that vertical takeoff and hover, which is very energy intensive, but then also being efficient during cruise. It's demanding.
And the aircraft structure. Lightweight, but strong.
Yep. Airframe design. Using advanced materials like carbon fiber composites to keep weight down while ensuring structural integrity and meeting safety standards, that's critical.
And autonomy.
And developing and certifying those autonomous flight systems, that's a huge technical lift and, as we said, a regulatory one too. Overcoming these limits, especially batteries and autonomy, is really vital for commercial success.
So, still some serious engineering challenges even with all the progress. Finally, the bottom line. Economic viability. Can this actually make money? Be sustainable?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? Economic viability.
High R&D costs to start.
Very high R&D. Manufacturing costs are also substantial advanced materials, complex systems. Then the actual service cost, it needs to be competitive with ground transport or helicopters, depending on the use case.
How do they make it competitive? Lower operating costs.
That's the hope. Electric power might be cheaper than jet fuel. Electric motors potentially need less maintenance than complex engines and gearboxes. And eventually, autonomy could remove pilot costs, which are significant.
But you still have the huge infrastructure costs we talked about. Vertiports, charging.
Exactly. That upfront investment is massive. And you have ongoing costs like battery replacement, electricity prices. So while projections often show lower operating costs than helicopters, achieving cost reduction across the whole system is essential for long-term sustainability.
Okay, so it's a really complex equation. Technical, regulatory, infrastructure, public, economic, all need to fall into place.
Precisely. Progress is needed on all fronts, pretty much simultaneously.
So looking ahead then,
Yeah.
what's the realistic timeline? When do we actually see these things becoming common?
Well, as we heard, many companies are targeting commercial entry around the mid-2020s. 2025, 2026 keeps coming up.
But maybe take that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Given the hurdles.
It's ambitious. Regulatory approvals, infrastructure build-out. Those could definitely push timelines. Some forecasts suggest we might see initial limited commercial routes, maybe within the next couple of years, but widespread use is likely further out.
Okay. What are the key breakthroughs we should watch for? What tech advancements will really move the needle?
Battery technology is number one. Solid-state batteries are the big hope there. Higher energy density, faster charging, potentially safer. That would be a game changer.
Anything else?
Lighter, stronger composite materials for the airframes, and continued progress on more sophisticated, more reliable autonomous flight systems, getting those certified and trusted.
And how might our cities change if this takes off? Literally.
You could see a real transformation. Vertiports integrated onto building rooftops, maybe repurposed parking garages, designated air mobility corridors established in the sky to manage traffic.
A very different urban landscape. Broader impacts. Society, economy.
Potentially substantial. New job creation, manufacturing, maintenance, operations, infrastructure, new business models around on-demand air travel, improved accessibility for congested areas or remote communities.
So the potential is huge, but
realizing it depends on tackling all those challenges we laid out. Continuous innovation, collaboration, investment. It all needs to happen.
So wrapping up, it's clear EVTOLs hold really significant promise. A cleaner, quieter, maybe more efficient way to fly.
That's the core vision, absolutely. We've looked at the history, how they fly, the amazing range of potential applications, air taxis, cargo, EMS, and more. We've met some of the key players driving it forward.
And we spent a good amount of time on the considerable hurdles they still face. Regulatory, infrastructure, public trust, technical limits, and making the economics work.
Exactly. The benefits could be huge: less congestion, lower environmental impact, better connectivity. But the path forward requires that sustained innovation, collaboration, community engagement, and serious investment.
It's not a simple path.
Not at all. Compelling vision, complex journey.
So for you, our listener, here's something to chew on. Thinking about all those challenges, regulations, infrastructure, public acceptance, technology, economics, which single one do you think will be the most critical make-or-break factor for EVTOLs truly taking off and becoming part of our daily lives? And maybe think about how this technology, if successful, might change your own community, your own travel habits in the future. It's definitely a fascinating space to watch.
Indeed it is. The future of how we move, especially in cities, could be right on the verge of a major shift. And EVTOLs are absolutely central to that exciting possibility.
Thanks for listening. Do click the like and subscribe button, as well as hit the bell notification icon if you like this content, so you'll be informed when we drop new ones. See you next time. Peace.